Hello everyone, I am Grayson the Bard, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak build video. I'm going to apologize in advance if I sound a little bit off today. I just got over one sickness and now I'm coming down with another, so my throat is a little scratchy right now, which is not the best for recording, but I wanted to get this video out there as soon as I could. Because today we are going to be looking at one of my all-time favorite weapons in the series and a long-time main of mine, the Greatsword. Up until Monster Hunter World and the start of Generation 5, the Greatsword has always been my main weapon in the series. I love its simplicity, the power, the satisfying feeling when you land a well-timed level 3 charged attack. Everything about it felt weighty and powerful and fun, and back in the day of 3 and 4 Ultimate, which were my main two games for the longest time, I pretty much exclusively played Greatsword, and it wasn't until World and Rise that I really started to branch out and play more weapons consistently. Unfortunately, though, the main reason that I ended up branching out was because I didn't really like the Generation 5 Greatsword playstyle. I'm not a huge fan of True Charge Slash. I've always been a ride or die crit draw stan, and when that build style got nerfed pretty heavily, especially in Rise when they completely gutted crit draw as a skill, I just kind of gave up on it. I still played a hell of a lot of Greatsword, especially in World, but it was never my go-to weapon. I started to lean more into Hunting Horn and Heavy Bowgun and things like that. And then came Sunbreak introducing Storm Surge Slash, and I was back. Adding fast attacking, high element and status options to the Greatsword while still emphasizing the hit and run playstyle that used to be its bread and butter, that was all I needed to bring me back into the fold. The build I'm going to be showing off today makes use of almost exclusively Title Update 2 monster materials, so if you have not unlocked those monsters yet, unfortunately this build is not going to work for you. Now, if you watched my last video about my 4A Hunting Horn build updates, the armor in this video is going to look pretty familiar. It's the same set that I used for that build with a few tweaks to it to better fit the Greatsword playstyle that I'm going for. We're going to be using a mix of Gold Rathian and Risen Chameleos gear to max out 4A, status trigger, and build-up boost, along with Chameleos Blessing to extend the length that monsters stay poisoned, as well as generally make us a nightmare for Kushala Daora. Status trigger is going to make it much easier to proc status and continue to build up poison on monsters whenever we evade through an attack. 4A and build-up boost significantly increase the amount of damage we deal when a monster is afflicted by a status, or we hit it with an attack that procs status, respectively. These skills work together like a dream, and are the best thing to happen to status weapons in a very long time, and I hope they remain powerful throughout the title updates. For the weapon, I really wanted to use a Flaming Espinas weapon for a couple reasons. I went with the Flaming Espinas Greatsword because it has really respectable raw with 310 before augments, as well as decent decoration slots with a level 4 slot right at the forefront, and decent fire damage for when you want to do Elemental Greatsword. But Grayson, I hear you say, you said this was a status build. I don't see any status on that sword. What are you thinking? Are you dumb? Yes. But the cool thing about Flaming Espinas melee weapons is that they have a hidden poison value in addition to the advertised fire element, and the best part about that is it also works with status trigger even though it is not listed on the element for the weapon. Let me show you what I mean. So here at the training dummy, you can see as I'm hitting the dummy with the Flaming Espinas Greatsword, occasionally, in addition to the fire element proc that you see, you will also see the poison effect occasionally. Now, I haven't run the numbers at all, but to me it feels a little bit slower than the standard 1/3 chance that you get with most status weapons, so I don't know if it's technically using the same trigger modifier as regular status or not, but I'm also not much of a math behind the scenes guy, so someone else could probably tell you more about that than me. But then, when we roll through the attack and activate status trigger, we'll see that every hit that we do with the Greatsword triggers the element and status effect. You'll also notice that our attacks are doing a lot more damage when we hit the monster while it is poisoned, as well as when we hit with an attack that deals that status, because of 4A and build-up boost respectively. Going into detail about the armor, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be exclusively using materials from the Title Update 2 monsters, namely Golden Rathian and Risen Chameleos. From Golden Rathian, we are going to be using the helmet and the waist, and from Risen Chameleos, we are going to be using the chest, arms, and legs. Even before augments, this armor set gives us everything we need to really make the build work, which makes it very customizable for whatever you want it to be. We start off with 5 levels of Evade a Window. Evade a Window. Don't get hit by windows, kids. 5 levels of Evade Window, 4 levels of Camellia's Blessing, 3 levels of Foray, 3 levels of Status Trigger, 3 levels of Build Up Boost, 2 levels of Evade Extender, 2 levels of Defiance, and 2 levels of Burst, and a level of Normal and Wrap It Up, which we aren't going to be making use of, and a level of Wirebug Whisperer. The big standout skills on this set are, of course, Foray, Status Trigger, and Build Up Boost being the biggest way that we are getting our damage, but those 5 levels of Evade Window really pull a lot of weight in making sure that we are able to consistently dodge through monster attacks, especially if that is something you are not very good at, like me. Now, for this final build that I'm showing off right now with decorations, I do want to say that it is showing augments. Fortunately, or I guess unfortunately for me, I have not been very lucky with my augment rolls, and I've not gotten too much that really breaks the build in half, so it is still mostly what you see here. I added some more defense because I really like defense, but you can go a lot of different directions with this for defense level 6. I maxed out Defiance because I think that's a really fun defensive skill to have, especially on a very aggressive build like this. Maxed out Critical Boost and Weakness Exploit in order to deal even more damage. And I also added a few levels of Handicraft, Part Breaker, and Divine Blessing. I believe those are all from the augments, and then another level of Wirebug Whisperer in order to just make it a little bit easier to keep my Wirebugs up. Fellow Greatsword mains may notice, hey, you don't have Focus, which has been a mainstay Greatsword skill for years. Well, with Storm Surge, or I keep forgetting what exactly it's called, you don't really need it. You attack fast enough and you don't really do any charge attacks, so focus would just be kind of wasted here. In terms of customization, you have a lot of directions you can go. As with a lot of my builds, I went for a very heavy defensive focus because that's how I like to play. But if you want, you could easily swap out some of the defensive decorations for some straight-up attack boost, or even the fire attack up or poison attack up in order to get more benefit from the fire element or the poison status on the sword. The greatsword we're using is a little low on sharpness, so levels of handicraft would help, as well as maybe some of the sharpness augmentations from the Curios crafting. A lot of it is dependent on how you like to play and what decorations you have available, as well as what talismans you have available. For this build, I have a Weakness Exploit 2 with a level 3 slot, and that helped carry a lot of my crit focus that I had in there. But chances are you've got a better talisman than I do, because my RNG has been hot garbage this entire game. Now, as always, I'm going to end this video talking about the pros and cons of this weapon, and where I think it really shines, and where I think it's a little bit weak. Just like my Foray Hunting Horn build, this build is going to be a Kushala Daora Destroyer, which with Title Update 3 on the horizon, and likely Risen Kushala Daora being a part of that title update, this might be a fun one to take into battle. Obviously with some better augments and tweaks, but still. In general, the weapon is pretty strong and has good respectable raw, but you really don't make a whole lot of use of the fire element against a lot of monsters in the game, especially endgame monsters, which have been very heavily skewed towards fire element, or at least being resistant to fire. So because of that, it's best served against monsters that are both weak to poison and fire, and have good raw hit zones that are easy to hit with a greatsword, so the pipeline of monsters that this is super effective against is very narrow, but against those monsters, it shines like a star in the sky. And I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you check this build out, play around with it. Let me know what you like, what you dislike, what you would like to change. I'm always happy to take recommendations on, I think it was my Lance video that I put out a while back. Someone gave me a recommendation for a better waist option, and I was like, oh yeah, that rips. So please feel free to let me know if you think there's anything that would make this build better. Title Update 3 is just on the horizon. I'm looking forward to it. I hope y'all are looking forward to it, and I hope we can get in there and hunt some big monsters soon. Once again, that is going to be everything from me, and until next time, I'll see you next time.